Hello, my name is Omar Abisset. It is 5:57 p.m., July 27th, 2020. So I tweeted a bunch of tweets today um, about Russell Williams. And I was thinking of my situation here and what's going on in the building. And my lawyer starting to talk to me about Bernardo in one of the conversations. And asking me if he could give me a ride in his limousine. And having his name being called outside my window all the time as him having the account, co-signing the account. So I went back and I read some of the articles about Russell Williams, because Russell Williams and Paul Bernardo went to the same campus, UFT campus, University of Toronto campus in Scarborough. I also went to UFT, not in the Scarborough campus. I went to the downtown campus and in the Mississauga campus. And of course, Rohini Besasa went to York. Now, both campuses, not the downtown campus, but the Scarborough campus and the York University campus, that is west of Scarborough, but just as far north of where I live. They both have a history of having serial rapists on the campus that goes on sometimes for years, and the person is not caught. Paul Bernardo being one such person. It's interesting that Russell Williams also went to that campus. I haven't read about rapes in the campus specifically, but there were pranks, break-in pranks. And I was drawing some parallels about what I was experiencing in this building and the conversations outside the window and the constant updating and the constant threat of having the cops come and get me because something is wrong with me. I'm mentally ill and so on. And some of the other occurrences that I've tweeted about and actually reported to the cops and reported to management. I reported to management that I suspect that my home was being broken into. This was years ago. They referred me to the police. I tweeted about my home being entered and my unit being searched. From comments outside the window, I heard it was for drugs. Because I was reported to the cops as someone who was doing drugs. I am brown skin, I'm a terrorist after 9/11, and on and on and on and on. But in those times when I suspected that my home was entered, my furniture was moved around. My pictures was moved off kilter. It was moved to the side. It wasn't straight on the wall. The lights was left on. Underwear was missing. Things in my underwear drawer went missing. And I would think, oh, maybe it was in the washer, maybe it was in the hamper to dirty clothes to be washed, and I never paid any attention to it. But I did notice that things would just disappear. One pair of socks, which everybody had this experience, right? The machine ate it. Well, I've had expensive, like really, really expensive socks. One side go missing when I knew that because they were expensive, I would take my time and put them together, knot them together and put them in my drawer so I don't lose them. Um, and one side would go missing. Now let's leave the sock aside because socks are notorious for missing the missing pair. But tops would go missing. I would have expensive tops um, rip in completely circular patterns. I had a linen shirt once, a white linen shirt, all pressed and all wrinkle-free, wore it to work, and I stretched my arm to grab something at work, and suddenly the fabric came apart. And I thought, oh, well, that's strange because it couldn't have been more than 2 years old. And I looked at it, and the fabric came apart in a circular half moon way. So when I came home and I took it off and I looked at it, I noticed that there was a burn mark, a completely circular burn mark, slightly brown because the shirt was white, that was in that spot that it ripped. So when the fabric was pulled slightly, stretching my arm, the rip occurred, but the whole circle did not rip, just part of the circle ripped. So it was burnt. So these are the things that I notice, some of the many, many, many things. There were so many things that happened. I wish I had written it down or tweeted about it. Well, I didn't tweet back then, but I wish I had written it down because I just wrote it off as, one of those things. Because I was working, I barely had time to cook a meal. So when I noticed things missing, I just didn't bother. I didn't spend my time thinking too much about it. But now, in retrospect, that I'm home, and I've been home for about a year and a half now, and there is an ongoing attempt to have me mentally committed, pulled out, evicted. It's absoluted that I was a prostitute. I heard outside the window. I'm mentally perturbed. Something is wrong with me. On and 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 on. I think back to those like 15 years of things that happened that I wrote off completely. I never bothered thinking about it because I really didn't have time to think about it. So I thought about those occurrences, and I read some of the things that Russell Williams would do when he broke in. And he started off as just simply breaking in and lying on the bed and taking pictures. But what jumped out in all the articles I read, and what was in those articles was probably just 0.001% of what he did, because it happened. What he did started in 2005 that they knew of. Could have been before. Probably raped hundreds of children and girls that he didn't confess to, and nobody reported. He would go in and he would take their underwear. And in the building here, when underwear goes missing, or a pair of pants go missing or misplaced, I find it under the bed, for instance. And I know that I didn't put it there. Or I would find it behind a box, or in a very unusual place that normally I would not put items in. From the comments that I made around the window, these things are done to send messages to the victim as to what their remote client wants. So don't wear pants, don't wear underwear. And the comments that you're walking around without underwear, you're going to sleep without underwear, or you're taking away your underwear, taking out your underwear as you sleep. Whether you do these things or not, the comments point to two things. One, that they know what you're doing, therefore they're looking at you. And two, they're letting you know whether they like it or not. In other words, they're customizing. So why would Russell Williams take away like so many pairs of underwear from one person? If you took away 50 pairs of underwear from one person, I would think maybe that was all the underwear the person had at the time. That was in the drawer. He took them all away. So what message was he sending? Don't wear underwear, right? No underwear, none to wear. Why would he send that message? Well, he's a sexual predator, and there are sexual predators in this building like PK, who wants to play with his electric rod, and he heard that I give good service from Unit 2-3, which of course I don't. I never consented to being remotely accessed, and of course I'm not a prostitute. There's no physical contact with anybody in a sexual way. So that could be perceived as prostitution. I've dated in the past, but that's dating. But again, to paint you as a prostitute, what you did in the past is reconstructed and stretched and manipulated to make it look like it's something wrong. And my chest is getting scanned. Here. And my ear. So I got up this morning and my eardrums was swollen after the detector was going off all day. There. So all this hair is swollen. So Russell Williams, a sexual predator, and there are obviously sexual predators in the building. PK, a old Chinese man, on this floor is a sexual predator. Russell Williams attacked 11-year-old children. There are tons of little children in this building, several. There's a 21-floor building. There's a lot of families in the building with kids. These people are sexually addicted. They are sexual predators. They don't stop at one. When PK sexually harassed me on the phone, it proved that he was soliciting me. He heard that I give good service and he called to get good service, right? So that service would be remote because Unit 2-3, there's no contact with anybody in Unit 2-3 physically. So if Unit 2-3 said that I give good service, it had to be remote service. And obviously there is no consent to remote service because I am exposing what's going on. But PK wants service. So these people, they are trafficking remotely, forcefully. They are forcing the person without consent into the business using remote technologies, using containment tactics, gang stalking tactics as containment tactics, using the cops for containment because the cops, the dirty cops, are buying from the ring. They are logging in and raping as well. This is the reason why the ring could be operated for so long. It's covered by the Toronto police in Toronto, and I'm sure in other cities by the dirty cops in their cities. It's covered. Right? So, and my ear is itching. So, like Epstein's ring, um, there has to be a lot of people who's colluding to allow this to go on. Russell Williams is from the military. Um, Dirty cops, there are dirty cops in the police force, in the OPP, the RCMP. They all have to collude to cover up this crime. There is no doubt that there is a Masonic influence in the police force. The pyramid in front of the headquarters proves it. There is an anti-woman agenda, misogynistic agenda in all of the policing forces, the RCMP, OPP, police, and of course the military. The military has been infiltrated by Satanism, but there are different aspects to the misogynistic push. There is the sadomasochists who like to beat up on women just for the pleasure of it, sexual pleasure. There is the Satanists who like to sacrifice women to create terror on which they feed, because women feel deeper than men, so more terror is created, and the more terror the Satanists enjoy, that feeling of creating more and more terror in the person. They feed off it. They get off it sexually. And the pedophiles who like to go after the young girls. Right? So it's all related. Paul Bernardo, Russell Williams, Rohini Besasa being a victim of people like Russell Williams. When Rohini Besasa said there are high people in a lot of the high places, well, she's actually quite right, because there are high people in the military who are using, abusing, and misusing the technology to traffic, to carry out and satisfy sadomasochistic tendencies, practices, habits, enjoyment, addiction. So in this building, there are teams of people, like the Muslim team, for instance, would get together and stalk me and spy on me and have reports about me, and they would discuss it. And then they would decide what power level they're going to hit me with, what they're going to do that night. Rick is going to rape you during the night. We're going to gang rape you. Several contractors are going to be logging into you. 6 or 7 of people are going to be logging into you. Keep in mind, there is no consent, of course, to this, because this is gang raping. Gang raping. So why did Russell Williams take such methodical records of what he did? He didn't only take pictures of himself. He took pictures of ID, of like driver's license, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, bedrooms. Maybe he took pictures of houses, of the entire house that wasn't in the file. And why did he put it on a computer? So well labeled, obviously for somebody else's use, or his own use for the future. Why would he do that? Well, because he would come back to these people, if as a child, 11 years old, 5 years down the line, and maybe return an underwear, right? And the child would look at it and think, oh, because she would have known if 86 pieces of underwear goes missing, she would know somebody would have been in her bedroom. And then one shows up one day, then she would know that the same person came back and terrorized her. She would be completely and utterly terrorized, especially if it happened a year down the road. one of the reasons why it would be so methodically filed and labeled. The house, the address, the time and date, who the underwear belonged to, the picture of the person, the bedroom, the drawer. The person who owns the child, the master, has to know everything about the person as the conversation outside the window goes. There are many, many, many times when the worker comes out the window outside the loading dock and talk to Chinese residents about what he's doing quite openly. You cannot have any secrets from me. You cannot have any secrets from me. Everything about the child, 11-year-old, has to be known. A file is created. And who knows, is it very possible that Russell Williams was not the first person who violated the child? Is it possible that the child was violated by other people before Russell Williams came along? From the military, from the police force, neighbors who's in the program, because the program has to be run by somebody. So in the building, PK is one of the people who's running the program. Unit 2-3 is one of the units that's running the program. So is it possible that the child was selected way before Russell Williams came along? Since a baby, a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and the child was being accessed. And Russell Williams was just one of the owners who violated the child and then moved on. And then somebody else came along. So I was reading an article that 500,000 children, non-Muslim children, were raped in England by Muslim gangs. 500,000. 500,000 children. And this is not counting the ones who did not talk. And the gangs are still operating. And Paul Bernardo was still up for parole. And Kristen French's parents and Leslie Mahaffey's parents and the public had to go and fight to keep him behind bars. Why would you release somebody like Paul Bernardo back in public? Why was he even up for parole in the first place? So it would seem to me that there is a war that's being carried out against women, girls, women. There is a war that's being carried out. And men are being taught to be more and more violent towards women. They are being taught to rape their daughters. Pedophilia is becoming more and more common. It's becoming more and more accepted to start having sex with girls at a very, very young age. They're being taught in school certain things that parents would not teach that goes against the culture and their beliefs. They're making them promiscuous. They're being made promiscuous. So there is definitely a war against women going on. So there is another side to this that needs to be addressed. It's the legal system, the judges, the courts, the lawyers. As I said before, my lawyer was, when I was falsely charged, when I was trying to get one of the stalkers associated with this trafficking ring reported. I called 911. And the cops did not make any notes. And then they went home and called and said I was harassing them. The cops did not ask me a word. They just came and pulled me out of my home and charged me. Because they knew exactly what was going on. This program cannot exist and cannot go on without the cops' participation and cover-up. So they knew exactly what was going on. So they came to my home and pulled me out and falsely charged me to shut me up, basically. And I almost got killed in their custody. And I'm still getting hit with microwaves constantly. That's my back. That's my right obliques. Middle is always swollen. My face is always swollen. My eyes, I have flashes in my eyes because my eyes and my face are constantly hit as I sleep. My chest constantly hit from directly above. The unit directly above has an antenna, I swear, that hits me directly in my chest. So am I scared to go up against the military? No. No. As I was saying, the infiltration is all pervading. So if they want to kill you, they're going to kill you no matter what. If they think that you're all used up and they started on you when you were 16 years old, in my case, when I came to Canada, and you're 60 years old and you're all used up and they want to dispose of you, they're going to dispose of you. Should I be scared? Well, no. I don't want to die, but I'm not going to stay quiet about it. I'm just going to take my, as I was saying, I'm going to take my blood pressure here. As I was saying, the judges and lawyers, and not all of them take part, but they all know about us. They all know about this program. My lawyer treated me like a prostitute, even though I was telling him exactly what was going on. I wrote emails to him, trying to explain what was going on. He accused me of harassing him when I tried to give him as much information as possible so he could defend me properly. Started swearing at me. So when I was about to take the case away from him, he compromised. But screwed me over anyways. So this has to be, I mean, we live in a time, as I said before, we live in a time where we have the power in our hands to change things. We have a voice. I'm expressing mine right now. I'm using mine right now. You have a voice. Use it. Talk about your experiences. Talk about your violation, people who are violating you, especially if you're a woman. Put your story on the YouTube. Do research. Find out how many other people have the same experience. Find out how far, find out how deeply the rabbit hole goes. And draw parallels. Find out how many other cases there are just like yours. And document it. Tweet. So yesterday my left leg was tagged on the back. And when that happens, there's a heaviness. You can actually feel a pull on your body. It's as if the gravitational pull that your body it's a little bit high, that your body is being exposed to has, quadrupled. You actually feel the pull. So if you were to ask the question, how do I know all of this? See, I'm being scanned, 37.8. And according to this, I have a fever. I don't have a fever. I'm constantly being scanned at a high power. Here's a scan. 37.2, 37.1, 36.5. No fever, 36.6, 37.4, 37.4. I do not have a fever. So let's talk about virtual sex without consent. So what I just talked about is violations, rape, using remote technologies, microwave lasers, tasers, and so on, to affect your body as you sleep and as you wake during the day, and and go about your business during the day. This is not only sexual assault, this is torture. So this is a whole separate topic than virtual sex. So I wanted to talk about virtual sex because the technology is being used on targets such as myself and on babies and 11-year-old and 12-year-olds, like Russell Williams and his teams, dirty teams in the military, accessing children around the world, and the militaries around the world, because it's not only Canada that this is happening. Of course, is rape, but they're using technologies that are being used, sophisticated technologies, but some of the technologies that are being used is imitating sex, the act of sex, that will be used in the future in virtual sex. You know, with COVID-19, nobody wants to have sex. I would assume nobody would want to have sex with multiple partners. That's very risky behavior. Even having sex with a regular partner is risky behavior, given COVID-19 hype and fear, if you buy into it. So virtual sex will become more and more common. And COVID-19 is not the only reason that it's happening. It's just the way things are going, given the technology. So virtual sex is going to be an everyday occurrence. It just is going to be one of those things that's going to happen as technology progresses. It's only one of the aspects of what's going on with people like Russell Williams and Paul Bernardo and PK in this building. They're all the same. PK, Russell Williams, and Bernardo, they're all the same. One is remote and one is virtual. One is physical. There is absolutely no difference. In fact, the remote is worse because, number one, you're not aware that it's being done. Number two, these remote technologies will kill you without a trace. And they can actually alter your body and do internal damage. And that makes it look like it's a disease when really it isn't. So it's more horrific. It's like Auschwitz remotely. It's about torture. If it's done physically, at least you have clear evidence and clear knowledge that it is being done. So remote is more horrific and more terrorizing when you actually realize that you are being affected this way. You would, and what they're hoping would happen, you would, come pretty close to having a complete and utter nervous breakdown. And they're hoping that you split. Children might actually split. Now, I obviously am not split. Traumatized, by the whole thing, but not split. Why? Because if you take the um, what's happening, the occurrences, and you pull yourself, well, maybe that's not the right word. There is something that Deepak Chopra said that made sense to me, and I'm not paraphrasing, and I'm just talking, I'm rephrasing what he's saying, and this is what I got out of what he said. If you take yourself out of the situation and you look at it in a more logical fashion, and you have a different perspective, take your emotions out of it. And I'm not talking about being disassociated. I'm talking about rising above it and looking and getting a perspective from above. There's a saying, you can't change a situation on the level of the frequency that the situation is being carried out. So an occurrence happened at a different level of consciousness, a different frequency level. If you stay in that frequency level, you cannot change the circumstances of what's happened. You have to change the frequency, bring up your frequency to look at it from above in order to change the circumstances that you want to change. That's not disassociation. It comes with maturity, it comes with age, it comes with inheriting a spiritual understanding of things. So there is no splitting. Causes a whole lot of pain and trauma, but there is no splitting. It also, the background of having a grounding, a spiritual grounding, gives you the tools to survive. And not only survive, thrive, to get through it and thrive. So anyways, this whole thing, about virtual sex, let's get back to topic, is the way things are going. So one of the things that the Chinese traffickers are experimenting with to build a market is to use targets, because targets are being experimented with, trafficked, all fixed, all covered, courts, judges, lawyers, government officials, professionals, doctors, they're all in on it. So it's all fixed, all covered. So the target could be used for anything. It's a tool. A target is a tool. But a child who's being violated by people like Russell Williams and being handed over to other people is also a tool. But that child and the parent of that child, the parents of that child, will never, ever know it. In fact, that child could go through and grow up into an adulthood and have children and be accessed this way and acted upon this way, and their lives will be manipulated in the background intergenerationally and may never know it. They will never know it. So I'm a target, thank God. It's out in the open, in my face. You're a target. This is what we're doing to you. Well, that's a blessing in disguise, because I know what's going on. And I'd rather know what's going on than not know. So I became aware of this when the gang stalking became in your face. And this was back in 2005, around there. And interestingly enough, that's about the same time that Russell Williams started doing his pranks or raping. Very interesting. I suspect there are dirty military operations going on in Scarborough starting around that time. Scarborough is a hotbed of a lot of things. There's a lot of new immigrants from all over the world in Scarborough, in this area that I live in. So there is all kinds of people here, all kinds of people from all kinds of different backgrounds. The entire world is reflected in this area, and all the criminals as well, unfortunately. So my blood pressure went down, so I'm going to take it one more time because my right obliques are being hit. I think it's time that we came out and talked openly about what's going on. I think the information is right in front of our noses. We just need to study it. You know, we just need to draw the lines, connect the dots, and the picture will become clearer. So I'm in pain on this side, and my blood pressure went up 125/79. So it was, so the last four, 124/81, 124/83, 117/81, 125/79. Blood pressure 81, 78, 79, 81. So I am in pain, 125/79. That's the obliques. So the heat being generated, 37.4, 37.5, 37.6, 37.5, 37.5, forehead, 36.9. I do not have fever. So that's the right obliques being hit, as I just demonstrated with the microwave detector. 37.6, it goes right down immediately. 37.6, 37.4, 37.5. Still being hit, the right side. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there.